Solo Leveling is the best anime I've ever seen. Yeah, that's cap. That was corny as hell, but what's going on, guys? It's your boy Chili Rex, the #1 place for anime recommendations you'll find anywhere. In today's video, we're gonna talk about all the hype of, obviously, Solo Leveling. Is it really worth the hype? Are people overhyping the hell out of it, saying it's the best anime of all time, or is the hype actually deserved? Before we get into this, do me a huge favor, hit that like and subscribe button for more content. As always, I really appreciate you guys and all your love. Solo Leveling is easily one of the most hyped anime of the year. People have been waiting for this adaptation for years. I remember being on Twitter 5 years ago, people begging for this to get animated. And now that it's finally here, people are saying it's the best anime of all time. But is it really that good? Now, let me preface this video by saying I am absolutely loving Solo Leveling. The animation is gorgeous, the fights are insanely well animated, and the soundtrack is next level. A1 Pictures is going absolutely all out with this production, and it's clear they understand the pressure that comes with producing such a beloved series. But at the same time, is the hype making everybody overrated? Also, one note before we get into this is only going to be talking about the anime. We will not be talking about the webtoon at all. So as you're watching, if you've read the webtoon, try your best to not hate me because I haven't read all of the webtoon yet. This is just talking about the anime. And I am not saying I am the #1 opinion on anime. If you don't agree with me, your opinion is terrible. Like, that's not me at all. I would like to get back to a place where we can have cordial conversations about anime without it being like, oh, you're an idiot, your opinion is trash, yada yada, because that doesn't help anybody. Also, if you hear me talking with a lisp throughout this video, I just got these Invisalign things in like a couple days ago, so yeah, I'm probably gonna sound weird with some of the words I say. No mean comments, all right? But honestly, I think if we take a step back a little bit, I think Solo Leveling does a lot of things and gets praised for them that other anime get criticized for. So today, let's break it down. What Solo Leveling does well, what it isn't doing well, and if the hype of the anime is actually carrying it a bit more than we think. So let's start with the obvious. Solo Leveling is actually incredibly beautiful. A1 Pictures is flexing super hard, and they really needed to, because Solo Leveling is a power fantasy. If the fights don't look this good, the whole show would collapse. And the fights, they are super clean. The choreography is fluid, the effects make every attack feel powerful, and they nail the weight of Jinwoo's strength increasing over time. And when you bring in Hiroyuki Samano, you know, the legendary composer behind Attack on Titan, Kill la Kill, 86, and many other incredible shows, you know the soundtrack is gonna be amazing, and it only adds to the hype of each and every scene. So obviously, when you're talking about the presentation of a show and the animation and everything like that, if every show looked as beautiful as Solo Leveling does, would they also get the same hype? In the past, we've had these exact situations, but people will call it style over substance. You know, it's being carried by the animation. But for Solo Leveling, it kind of seems like everybody just praises how sick the fight scenes look. And like, don't get me wrong, these fight scenes are absolutely insane, but it's kind of a double standard, don't you think? Think about something like the Fate series, right? If you're not super big into the Fate series and the background, because there definitely is a story there, but if you're not big into it, a lot of people would say, oh, it just has flashy fight scenes, but nothing else. Or even another recent show that had absolutely sick fight scenes, but the story was superbly rushed, God of High School. What happened with that? People saw the fights, thought the fights were cool, but it got butchered for rushing through the story. But when Solo Leveling does it, it kind of seems like everybody's just vibing. And of course, you can't blame Solo Leveling for having a great team behind the production. It's just other shows do not get the same appreciation or the same leeway that Solo Leveling gets in certain departments. Now let's talk about the story. Solo Leveling has a simple but effective setup. Weak guy gets a second chance, becomes stronger, and flexes on everybody that doubted him. It's basically the anime equivalent of a gym glow up. And as I said before, I am only talking about the anime because that's what we see in the anime. We're not diving into the webtoon at all. But let's be honest, this isn't a deep, thought-provoking story at all. And I'm not saying every show needs to be that way by any means. Not every show needs to be like a super nuanced show or anything like that. It is what it is, and that's not a bad thing. The side characters, barely developed. We don't really know anything about anybody. And the world building, not really that deep. Obviously, it's not going to go into as much detail as the webtoon does, because when you're reading something, you could put a lot more information in there for people to consume. And I think even people rating the show a 10 out of 10 right now would say the same thing. We don't really know anything behind the politics of the world outside of some characters bickering back and forth with each other and knowing that this agency or this department or whatever you want to call it has an issue with this one and yada yada. It's really all about Jinwoo looking cool, super strong, and showing off his abilities, and that's fine. But the weird thing is, when other anime do this, people call it bad writing. Take Sword Art Online, for example. And yes, if you know me, you know that's my favorite anime. I had to include it in here. Kirito is overpowered, wins every fight, and barely struggles. People hate him for it. But when Solo Leveling does the same thing with Jinwoo, everyone calls it peak fiction. And yes, does Jinwoo struggle in Solo Leveling? Yeah, I would say he struggles more than Kirito does. But at the end of the day, everybody knows he's not losing the fights. You can even look at One Punch Man Season 2. The fights were still cool, Saitama was still OP, but suddenly people weren't as into it because the animation wasn't as strong as Season 1. So is Solo Leveling actually that good, or does it just look amazing? I also think, and I don't know if this is really a hot take or not, but if the characters in Solo Leveling were all high schoolers that look kind of average, as most high schoolers do, and not what they are, which is these super attractive adults for the most part in the show, would there be as much love behind the series? I think more production teams have come to realize if you make the characters look attractive and look older than what they are, then more people will watch it and love it for that reason. It's just something to think about. Now here's where things get interesting. The hype around Solo Leveling is almost bigger than the anime itself. Like, people were calling Solo Leveling anime of the year before the first episode of Season 2 even dropped. And some people are acting like it's super revolutionary, but in reality, it's just a really well-made power fantasy. And don't get me wrong, I get it. Solo Leveling is wish fulfillment done right. I absolutely love watching Jinwoo rip people apart, have this insane uber confidence knowing like, oh, I'm about to piece you up, my guy. And again, I am absolutely enjoying the show, but I think we have to be honest about what we're seeing. When Demon Slayer Season 1 dropped, people absolutely lost their minds over the animation. Ufotable went absolutely crazy. Like, we cannot discount what Ufotable did with Demon Slayer, like absolutely crazy. But it took a very simple standard shonen story and turned it into people calling it the best anime ever. Demon Slayer is a very solid show, but it's not exactly groundbreaking. The story is simple, the characters follow classic tropes, but yet because the animation was so top tier, you had people putting it in the upper echelon of anime that have ever been made. But now, some of those same people that were putting Demon Slayer on the top tier of anime ever are now calling it overrated. Solo Leveling is in a very similar situation. It's a straightforward power fantasy, but because A1 Pictures is going all out with the production, people are overlooking its flaws. So the real question is, what happens when the hype dies down? Will people still call it a masterpiece, or will they start nitpicking the things that they ignored before? And again, drawing similarities to Sword Art Online, which released back in 2012, when Sword Art Online was releasing, was the most beautifully animated thing at the time. A1 Pictures was killing it. Everybody loved the story, the characters, everything about it. I didn't even know Sword Art Online was like hated in the anime community until I got in the anime community online. It was such a shock to me because I never knew there was this just like bandwagon of hate behind it. Now, obviously, Sword Art Online has its issues. We don't talk about the fairy arc because I am the biggest Sword Art Online fan, and that arc is awful. Every SAO fan knows that. It went from being something that was considered timeless and a masterpiece and a 10 out of 10 to a lot of people, to now being a bad anime once the hype died down. Will the same happen with Solo Leveling, or will it stand the test of time? So, is Solo Leveling overhyped? Well, yes and no at the same time. It's an amazing adaptation with top tier animation and music, and if you love power fantasy stories, you are eating good. But at the same time, we have to be real. It's not a deep or complex story, and it's not doing anything that other anime haven't done before. But because of the insane hype, Solo Leveling seems to be getting a pass on things that other anime were criticized for. Just like Demon Slayer was called peak fiction when it was releasing at the time, and now it's being called overrated by those same people, will that same thing happen here? What do you guys think? Is Solo Leveling really that good, or is the hype doing most of the work? Let me know in the comments below, and be sure to hit that like and subscribe button for more content. As always, I appreciate you guys watching this fully through, and until next time, peace.